Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming at you with another Wargaming in Miniature video. In this video, we're going to talk about a dragon that I'm preparing to paint. But before I do that, I just kind of wanted to go over a size comparison before we get started because it's pertinent to this video. Okay, so I played Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and I think this has been the same throughout all the editions. There's a number of different size categories when it comes to dragons. They go through about 4 stages of life. They say the wormling is a medium-sized creature, and in 5th edition, medium-sized creatures go on a 1-inch base, so they fit in a 1 square. So this dragon here that I have on a 1-inch base is a medium sized creature. So this would be a wormling. And this came out of the Tyranny of Dragons set of D&D miniatures. Okay, let's see if I can put it somewhere where you can actually see what's going on there. Okay, and then the next category up is a young dragon. Now they say young dragons are large, and large in D&D terms is a 2x2 basically. It's the 4, like these 2 dragons, or actually all 3 of these dragons. Because if you look, that takes up a 2x2. This takes up a 2x2, and this takes up a 2x2. Okay. Well, these dragons are actually listed as young red dragon, young green dragon. So these would be accurate for being young dragons, right? So we'll put them off to the side over here. And then this is just called a dragon, a white dragon. But we know based on the size of the base that it is a young white dragon. But now I look at it like this. This figure, this model, is larger than the base. So it probably should be the next category up, because if this is a young red dragon, I guess they're pretty close to the same size. This just has these massive wings that make it look larger. Okay, so young is on a 1-inch or a 2x2. Great. And then the next category up is called an adult dragon, which is a huge model. Now, huge is normally on a 3x3. Right, which this model is. This is a 3x3 huge white dragon. And it doesn't say that under here. It just says elder white dragon. But we get the idea. It's an adult, right? Because he's huge. That's how we can categorize him. And I'm only counting the base, not the size of the model or anything. Even though that is about the right size model for the right size base. So that is a huge or elder or adult dragon. This guy's 100 to 800 years old. Okay. All right, now here's my point. I just ordered a dragon from Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures. It's listed as a young black dragon because I needed a black dragon for my campaign, and I needed a young one. So I was expecting a dragon approximately this size, because that's a wormling, this is young, that's elder, right, or adult. I was expecting a black dragon approximately this size. But what did I get? I got this box right here. Young black dragon. There's yeah, this should be maybe an adult. If this is an adult, yeah, it should be approximately that size. Or, I mean, it is approximately this size. So that looks like an adult black dragon, not a young black dragon. I'm happy because when I ordered it, I paid, I think, $20, and I thought I was going to be getting a dragon this big, but I'm actually super happy to get a dragon this big. It's like they upscaled me. Even here, it says young black dragon. Okay, so let me open up this container and we'll take a look at it. All right, so we got this thing opened. We're taking a look at it. It came with a flight stand that glues onto this. Let's go ahead and pop this out. I mean, I suppose that if I wanted to have it like running or something on the base, I probably could do that. But it's got a hole in its gut where you would put the flight stand in, and that's shaped like a teardrop. It's got a little groove, so it only goes in one way. And then that'll go up on the base. But my point is, before we take a close look at it, is this is a 3x3 base. This is not a young dragon base. This is an elder base, which is appropriate for the size of this model. This model is not, it's labeled as a young dragon. It's not a young dragon. It's an elder dragon. It's an adult dragon. I am totally cool with that. All right, so now let's take a close-up look at some of the details. All right, so we got this up close. You can see it's got the horns that most black dragons have, and it's got kind of the evil face, whiskers. And then, of course, most dragons are just going to have the big scales underneath. Got some vicious claws. Remember, this is going to be a flying model, so it looks like it's about to pounce. And then it's got a beautiful tail. Yeah, look at that little barbed tail. And then its little dragon feet are squared off. I kind of like that look to the dragon. You just got like a bumpy, gnarly look here. It's not like super scaled, but it kind of gives the illusion that it has a lot of scales. The neck definitely does have a lot of scales. That's cool. There are some seams. That's okay. I don't cry about that. And you got the ridge of overlapping scales. Wings are fairly thick. These are thick wings. I mean, these wings have got some meat on them, meat on their bones. Yeah, that's a super thick wing. That's good quality right there, I think. Nice forked tongue in there. Yeah, this is a beautiful model. Okay. I want to prime it. But do I care if I get this black? Because when I prime it, I'm going to spray the whole thing. I guess I could tape that, then prime it, then pull the tape off of it before I go to paint it. Plus I could glue that in there so it doesn't come out. because I don't want to prime it like this and then go back in and glue it onto the base. All right, so let me go ahead and, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna spray that black because that's gonna be perfectly fine as a flight stand. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pull out my DAP Rapid Fuse. That's what I'm gonna use to glue this down. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna glue the base into the body. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply some pressure from the base into the hole to get glue on the base, and I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to let that dry for 10-15 seconds, and then we're going to go ahead and push it in the way it's supposed to be. Okay, we're going to let that dry for a moment, like that. And then, well, you can kill two birds with one stone here. I'm going to go ahead and glue these rocks onto this base here. Okay. Now the question is, I don't want to center this on this. I want to center my model on that base. So I noticed that it's got a lot of tail and stuff on the left side. So I'm probably going to push this away from this side. See what I did there? I off-centered this piece on this because the dragon actually is kind of off-centered because of the tail and the head going this direction. Okay, let's apply a little bit of downward pressure on the stones onto the black wizard's base. All right, I'm gonna let that dry for maybe 5 minutes before I go to prime it. All right, now just so you know, I'm going to be priming it with Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch paint and primer. We're using flat black, bonds to plastic. Okay, so we're going to be using this flat black on this, and you might notice that the flat blacks tend to look a lot like a dark gray, and that's okay. I don't mind. I think that's a good color for a black dragon. See, that looks kind of dark gray as well. All right, so let's give that some time to dry. I'm going to prime it with this, and then we'll be back when the primer's dry. All right, guys, we're back. This is primed. It is black, 100% black, and you can still see a little bit of the shine. The paint and primer, I've noticed, even though it says flat, it does still leave a little bit of a shine. But that is perfectly okay for a dragon model, and various models would, however you wish. But in my opinion, a dragon model can have a little bit of a shine to it. That's perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and explain what I'm going to be doing next. What we're going to do is we're going to use charcoal. Now I use this Delta ceramic charcoal. There are a number of different really dark gray paint. I've seen Vallejo and Army Painter and Folk Art. They all make like either a German gray or a dark gray. And those, you want to get the darkest dark gray that you have. You want to get a dark gray that's almost black. The reason why is if you go to paint a lighter charcoal, because I have a variety of different paints called charcoal, they're actually just light gray or dark gray. This one is actually dark gray. It might not show that up on the camera, but it is a very dark gray. If you use a dark gray on top of a black model, what you're going to wind up having is a dark gray black dragon. You don't want a dark gray black dragon. You want a black dragon with dark gray highlights. All right, so let's go ahead and show you what I'm going to do. Okay, so we're going to put some of this Delta ceramic coat. I guess it's for painting ceramics. I'm going to put a little bit of that in my palette. Ceramic coat does cut, it is very liquidy. It's not as thick as some other paints. So when I go to dry brush, make sure you got a paper towel or cardboard or something that you can wipe your brush off on. Make sure you have a stiff bristle brush, not something soft, not a brush that's got a lot of movement in it. You want something that's fairly stiff. Citadel makes a brush called the tank brush. I think it's a little too stiff, but that's just my personal preference. I'm using a Master Touch brush. Now, you dip it in the paint, obviously, and then you wipe off the majority of it, I do, in the palette, saving paint. And then I take a couple of strokes across my paper towel just to get the majority of the paint off the brush. And then I go in to my model with a purpose. Okay, these ridges along the side, I go across the ridges and not with the ridges. And you get highlighting of the raised ridges. Now I'm not trying to do too much because I don't want this model to turn dark gray. I want it to stay a black dragon. This is only to accentuate or bring out features. It's not to, I'm not painting the model, I'm just highlighting it. The tail has a lot of ridges on it. Whoops. And remember, when it comes to dry brushing, less is more. Some people will take every bit of paint off of their brush and then go into dry brushing because they know that rule. They know less is more. Oh wow, these scales are really coming out nice. I am going to pretty much dry brush this entire model. It's just that different features on the model will have a different type of dry brush. Like the feet, underneath the feet. The legs. Trying to go cross grain. Try not to go with the grain. You don't want it to fall down into the cracks. You want it to hit the risen parts of the model and give it a slightly darker shade. Under the neck. There's some plates there, some inside of the neck, all across the head, and we're going to talk about these horns here in a bit, so don't really need to worry about dry brushing those right now. Inside the arms. Oh yes, inside the legs. Tail. Okay, the body, underneath the belly. Chest, which I already did, but a second coat is always good, especially if it needs it. Did the tail. Okay, now there's a part right in the body inside there. You might not be able to see it very well, but after I highlight it, you will see it very well. See how that made a difference? Okay, now the wings are going to be done just a little bit differently, but not much. Oh wow, I got too much paint on this brush. Okay. When I go to dry brush, I am going to go kind of with the grain of these bony see what I'm doing there? That way the bony part of the wing is actually all that gets highlighted. Okay, let's try that again on this side. Can you see how there's the dark gray? Now you notice if you're having a hard time seeing it, then I did it right. Because I don't want, remember, I don't want it to stand out as a dark gray paint. I want it to be a highlight on top of the black. Okay, now let's see if I can maneuver my paintbrush to do the same thing on the inside. Oh yeah, it's not too bad. Okay. All right, now when I get done, remember we'll do a very good close-up, but right now the focus, I have it set about this far, so. Okay, that looks good. Set that off, let that dry just a little bit while I clean my brush, and I'll be back in a minute. All right, now we're coming back, and we're going to do some eyes and the tongue in the mouth. I want to do red, right? And so I use my 2 round, this is a Princeton Summit 2 round brush. You don't need a super small brush. A lot of people say, oh, you need these little toothpicks and pin points and stuff like that for your eyeballs. No, no. If you know how to paint eyes, which I'm about to show you, you don't. Very small drop because the eyes and the tongue are very small. Now the issue is I'm not going to be focused in very good. So let me change this. Let me change the camera angle and the focus. All right, so we got this dragon up here, right? He's looking good already. See those two little slits for his eyes? That's like super impossible to get any paint in there, right? No. I'm going to show you a technique that you're going to like. You'll be amazed. I don't care. This is the point. This is the point I'm trying to make. I don't care if I paint the black with the red. I want to make sure that the eye is red. And I'm going to deliberately overpaint the eye. I'm going to paint the skin almost intentionally. Okay, so that entire eye socket is definitely red. Same thing with the other side. Okay, there is definite red in those eye sockets. And you're saying, Mr. Everything, that's a horrible paint job. Exactly, I'm not done. Let's do the tongue. But on the tongue, I'm going to pay a little bit more respect. I don't need to get red everywhere. Because the tongue is kind of almost, in this model, a separate piece, which I think is pretty cool. It's three-dimensional. You can't see anything I'm doing, can you? And again, I don't care if I get it on the teeth. Teeth are going to get painted separately. They can get red on them, I don't care. Okay, so I got red on the teeth, or I'm sorry, the eyes and the tongue. That's all I needed. All right, let me clean this brush. I'll be right back. All right, now this is the perfect time to paint on the base while we're waiting for this red to dry. I have this color from Folk Art. It's actually called Boulder. That's what we're going to use to paint, guess what? The boulders. Okay, as you can see, you don't need, well, maybe you can't see. You don't need a whole lot. We're just going to paint these stones down here. And we're going to paint them individually. Leaving a little bit of a gap between the stones. So the black will be the shadows between the stones, if that makes sense. Okay, I can see this paint needing a little bit of water. Okay. I notice that folk art tends to be a little bit thick and you'll get streaks. So you add water and that eliminates your streaks. You just have to get used to testing the consistencies of your paints and water mixtures. But I just put like 3 drops of water in there. And that resolved my issue. All right, let me get these stones painted, and I'll be right back. Okay, now that I got the stones painted the way I want, I'm just going to set this off to the side and let that dry while I clean off my brush. Be right back. We're going to go ahead and use French gray for the flight stand. Just a little bit, don't need a whole lot. I wanted it to contrast with the dragon. So the dragon would actually stand out as a separate model. And I don't know if you noticed, but I'm painting in a vertical, so if there are any lines, they go up and down. It contrasts with the black of the dragon without being obnoxious. I debated on whether or not I wanted to make it black or if I wanted to make it white or blue for like the sky, but I said to myself, those colors are all too drastic. They made too much of a contrast. When it came to the blue options, I was afraid it was going to attract your eyes to the blue and you would never see the dragon. So I went with a French gray. It kind of blends in with the stone a little bit, but stands out enough that it's not the stones. All right, when I get the stand painted, I'll be right back. Okay, I think I've let the eyes dry enough, and I still have a little bit of that paint left over from when I did the dry brushing. And what we're going to do with that dark gray, I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to go where the eyes are, and I'm going to correct any overpainting that I did. Here, let's zoom in. Okay, I don't know if there's enough, but it looks like there might be. Okay. So mainly, let's take a look at this guy on the left, right? His right eye. You can see where I painted red onto his skin, onto his eyelid. Voila, that's fixed. Maybe a little bit more. And then let's see if the other eyelid needs touching up. Yeah, maybe a little. Okay. Let's kind of flip this model a little bit. See if I can't get the upper eyelid as well. For this guy as well. Okay. See, so what I'm doing is I just got the red in there, and now I'm going back and hitting the part that should not be red. With my highlighted charcoal gray. Yeah, the bridge of his nose should not be gray, or red, I mean. Yeah, that looks really, really good. All right, let's clean this brush and then I'll be right back with the next color. All right, we talked about these horns and how they were going to be a slightly different color. I have a different charcoal gray. This is the charcoal gray that I did the dry brushing and the eye fixing. This is from Delta Ceram Coat, right? This one here is Anita's All-Purpose Acrylic, and they're both labeled charcoal, but if you look, one is much lighter than the other. But I am going to use the light charcoal. I only need just a very little bit of it. Use my fairly large brush. This is a 2 brush, but it's a little bit different. It's much larger. See, these brushes are both labeled as 2s, but you notice how the thickness of the brushes are different. So you just have to learn your brushes. And I'm going to paint, literally just paint this horn leaving a little bit of the black shining through. So you get kind of an ominous looking gray horn. There we go. We got some lighter gray, lighter charcoal. I think I want to do the same on this barb of the tail. just to make that tail stand out a little bit more, the point of the tail, that is. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry, clean my brush, be right back. Alright, so the next color we're going to be using is model color Dark Sand. Okay, I'm going to put this Okay, now what we're using the dark sand for are the claws and the teeth and any barbs on the wings. I wanted it to be a bone color, but not a brown. The dark sand is more, it's closer to what I think of when I see bone color. Okay, so let us begin. I didn't want to make it white because that's just too, white is too obnoxious. Don't forget to get under the claws. Behind the claws. It's easy to miss or forget. Only get two sides and not really go all the way around. Okay. And you get a claw. Let's do it again. Turn it, get it from a different angle. Turn it again to get it from a third angle, just to make sure you got complete coverage. Okay, so you got their two claws right there. Okay, so I'm going to do the hind claws, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so we got all the claws, as you can see. Now we're going to jump to the wings. I'm going to show you what I mean by the talons. See, there's like this hook right here. All right, and let me go ahead and do all of these. And okay, now on the back ones, might need to discuss this. Looks like this flesh goes out about halfway through the talon, and then the talon is only the last piece. Yeah, just paint the talon. Don't paint the fleshy bits. All right, let me get all these done and I'll be right back. Okay, and so we got all the talons finished on the wings. Now, last thing that needs this bone is the teeth in the mouth. Okay. To do the teeth in the mouth, I drag my brush across the teeth. trying not to get it on the gums or the tongue. Yeah. That looks good. All right, we're going to let this color dry, and then I'll be right back for the next color. All right, so the next color we're going to use is the Warlord or Army Painter U.S. Army Green. Okay, I've got it poured in right there. And I use a soft bristle brush for this. And I'm painting the base that's not the stone. I paint up right up against the stone, but I do leave a little bit of a black line there. Just like so. Let's go ahead and get the entire thing painted along with the outer edge. Now, if you're so inclined, you want to take one step, take the next step. I'm not going to do it. But if you want to like add grass flock or something like that, this is where you would add it. You would add it on top of the green here, leaving the stones exposed. All right, let me get this base painted and I'll be back for some close-ups. All right, and this is what that model looks like on the table. Let's take a look at it. The wings look good. The horns, the claws, a little bit of a shine to the wings. I kind of like it. You can see the gray. You can see the gray on the bony protrusions. You can see the highlights. Yeah, the tail. You can see all the details. I love this model. I really do like this model. Okay, so let's get even closer. Whoops. Let's get even closer. All right, let's take a look. There's the face, the claws. You can see the highlighted details. Base, horns. It's hard to get this camera in the right place. Wings, talons. Yeah. Black dragon. I am digging it. This is probably one of my favorite dragon models that I've painted. I might get some more of the different colors. Alright guys, thanks for coming out and checking out this Nolzur's young black dragon, which I think is adult. And I'll see you next time.